Just a word welcome to this third webinar of this series of webinars jointly organized by EBN and EUBIC Coventry University, dedicated really to the future of innovations by the use of simulation, immersive and experiential technology. I am Laura Lecce, the CEO of EBN, and I'm delighted to co-host this session with Magdalena Paszolska, Enterprise and Innovation Manager at the Brussels Hub of Coventry University. So before maybe delving into the session, let me remind you that this webinar will be recorded. So if for any reason you would not like to make your attendance public, just make sure that you don't share your name or the organization name you come from, and you're very welcome to turn off your camera now. On the other side, we would like to make this webinar and this session as interactive as possible, so feel very much free to use the chat, either to address the question to the fantastic speaker that we have today, or to share any relevant initiative and contact details, just in case we don't manage to cover that lively. So, as I was saying, this is the third webinar of a series of, and today we are going to focus on extended reality solutions for the future of transportation and mobility. Now, maybe before giving the floor to the two speakers that we have invited today, maybe just to give you a very brief introduction about EBN myself, and then I will leave the floor to Magdalena, just because there are, I can see new names, so it could be interesting a little bit to see why we are promoting jointly this initiative. So as far as EBN is concerned, right, is the European Business and Innovation Center Network, is the network or a network of Business Innovation Center and other business support organizations whose daily job is really to help innovative entrepreneurs and companies to set up, grow, and scale up internationally their business in a successful and sustainable way. In our network, there are more than 165 members that sort of spread really all over Europe and beyond in more than 35 countries. Most of our members, around 110, do own the very special EUBIC label. EUBIC stands for European Business and Innovation Center. Is a certification outstanding for almost 40 years, so pretty successful and long-lasting in time. And the organization that are willing to sort of get this label need to answer to 4 mission commitments, which are the regional economic sustainable development. We very much look for long-term impact, the quality of the services that these organizations do deliver to the entrepreneurs and the companies that they support, their capacity of having a steady pipeline of innovative companies that are ready, they're ready for investment, and their ability to connect with trustful and like-minded organizations to boost international collaboration. What do we do for these members? The EBN Secretariat counts around 17 people, mostly based in Brussels, but also others spread in Europe and also other continents. We deliver for them the EUBIC certification. We are the only organization that can grant this label. That stands very much for the quality of the processes and the services that business support organization deliver to the companies, as I was mentioning before, and we process for them a number of data and information that help them to benchmark their organization towards their peer, to see a little bit the area where they would need to improve and who would be the best in class to learn from. Together with that, we do deliver a number of training, capacity building, or these type of webinars, where again, we give our members and the companies that they support to learn the latest trends in the sector of the industries where they operate. We do facilitate meeting, connection, again, always with the aim of putting together collaborative projects or exchange best practice or get inspired from programs and replicate that in other regions. We do facilitate access on information regarding EU-funded projects, but also we give them tools to manage those projects, either for them or for the companies that they support. We involve them in technical assistance activities in order to boost less developed innovation ecosystem. And then we do reinforce strategic partnership with external organizations that are particularly expert in topics that we know would speak to the heart of our members in their company, or with corporates or with investors and other associations in order to enrich the portfolio of opportunity. Now, one of the best ambassador of our network is indeed EUBIC Coventry University. So let me introduce you Magdalena, as I was saying, Enterprise and Innovation Manager at the Brussels Hub of Coventry University, to also give you a few words about Coventry University and welcome you to this webinar. Magdalena.
Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you for the welcome, and welcome to everybody joining us at this webinar. Welcome to our third in the series of the joint webinars. We are very happy to see you here and your presence. So we have a very long-lasting relationship with EBN of over 20 years, and we are also co-located with EBN, so always happy to see them in online and face-to-face. Our focus today is on extended reality solutions for the future of transportation and mobility, covering a wide range of topics, from connected cars to drones to vertiports and urban mobility. And we really have fantastic stories about this and insights, which we will hear about from my colleague, Kevin Vincent, working at the National Transport Design Center, as well as from our one of our key stakeholders, which is Coventry City Council, represented here by Sanil Budil. So before that, I would like to give you a very quick overview of Coventry University Group, really very quick, so that you have this snapshot of what we do and what we stand for, and a sort of a flavor of us. We have been created as a College of Design in 1843. We became a polytechnic in 1970, and Coventry University was renamed as a university in 1992. We currently provide education to over 50,000 students across the whole globe, and our strategy as the group evolves around four key themes. The first one of them, of course, because we are a university, is education and student experience. With this theme in mind, with this objective in mind, we aim to deliver education that reflects the needs and aspirations of our students and their employers. The second theme of our group strategy is research and impact. We deliver challenge-led transdisciplinary research that addresses real-world issues. Thirdly, as partly evidenced by our also wide-ranging audience here, we are a global university. We operate at a scale with hubs in Brussels, where I'm calling to you from, hubs in Singapore, Dubai, Rwanda, and we also have a campus in Poland. The fourth theme is enterprise innovation, which means working with businesses, working with the communities, and design the support to innovation, entrepreneurship, startups, scale-ups, and economic development. So hopefully this gives you a very quick sense of who we are, and I'm sure that you will find this session enjoyable, enriching, and exciting. So now giving back the floor to Laura, our Master of Ceremony, so that we can get started. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Magdalena. And I think our audience can learn even more from Coventry, exactly also by listening to our speakers. Finally, I can introduce you officially, and thanks for joining us to both of them. So the first one will be Kevin Vincent, Director of the Center for Connected and Autonomous Automotive Research and the National Transport Design Center at Coventry University. Welcome, Vincent. Thank you very much. I think you'll be discussing something that is really, really important also a community for EBN members, really, regarding the collaboration between academia, industries, and authorities on now really driving forward leading edge research, education, and skills. After we will hear from Vincent, it will be the time for Sanil Budil, Transport Innovation Manager at Coventry City Council, which is sure I really thank very much for stepping in, because the previous foreseen speaker could not make it for personal circumstances. So Sanil will present the approach that Coventry City takes towards the development of new technology for transformation. So again, there is something very much that speaks very much to the heart of many of the cities where our members are located. So I'm sure you will get great inspiration also from this second contribution. So without any further ado, Vincent, the virtual stage is yours.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. My name's Kevin Vincent, as Laura said. What I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to share my screen in a minute, but just before I do, I'd like to thank Sunil personally. As Laura said, the thrust of what I'm going to be talking about is how we gain impact, and that impact wouldn't be achieved without our very close relationship with local stakeholders, such as the County Council, the City Council, and what we have here in Coventry is in effect a living lab. So a lot of what we do is enabled by that relationship. So if I just share my screen, I'm going to give a short introduction to the National Transport Design Centre and its role in that relationship. The National Transport Design Centre is a facility, part of the Research Institute Clean Growth and Future Mobility. Its role is to articulate new design methodology and processes to envisage future mobility solutions that are accessible and usable by all. So it's a user-centered research centre that focuses on human factors, design, ergonomics, and accessibility. Its function is to get research out into the wild, working with industry, with our industry partners and with our local authority partners to see that research gain impact for economic and social benefit to both the region, nationally, and beyond. So what I'm going to talk about this afternoon is a case study about how we've used extended reality solutions to create an accelerated pathway to product development. And this is what you'll see on the screen is a render of Urban Airport, the world's first pop-up urban vertiport. And this, a little bit of preamble. We scoped this project out with our industrial partners, Urban Airport, in lockdown 1 of the pandemic. The speed at which we worked, we got approval from the City Council. We were able to build it and demonstrate it by May 2022. And that's key. So that's in very big parts, thanks to Sunil. So what did we do in this, the world's first pop-up airport? So as I said, it's a £1.7 million project. It's funded under the Future Flight Challenge in the UK, so managed by our government innovation funders, Innovate UK. And the project was to design and build an urban airport in Coventry for demonstration in May 2022. So as such, we were able to run the first urban heavy drone flights, and we were led by Urban Airport, the lead industrial, and we worked with architects such as 6 Miles Across London, Malloy Design, Aeronautics, Coventry City Council, and also we had a lot of help and input from Supernal, which was previously the Hyundai Urban Air Mobility division. Our principal investigator here at the university was Professor Stuart Burrell, working with Professor Paul Herriotts and myself. And what did we want to do in this? So what our main aim was, so when we first had the conversation about scoping out the project, there were 2 key issues. One, where do we locate it? And 2, what can we do to make this as realistic as possible so that we have a solution that works for people? And to do that, we need to understand the customer journey and how that is incorporated within the design process and how we influence the design at speed and pace. So we underwent a number of design conversations with Urban Airport. And to do that, we had a number of objectives, which were around developing the user persona and storyboards to understand the pain points and exciters that people generally go through when they're on that sort of journey from booking a ticket, getting to the airport, moving through the airport and boarding their flight. And the way we used that was we were going to evaluate that user experience and navigation of that journey through virtual reality techniques, blending that then into augmented and extended mixed reality techniques, and a series of participant and user events where we could get kind of that experience back in sort of semi-structured and structured interviews to influence the design. And then finally, a public engagement event using augmented reality experience at the final event to get sort of wider customer and stakeholder take up and buy-in as to whether they would trust and develop, trust and accept this kind of urban mobility. Just as a parallel activity, also we had colleagues in our disaster and emergency management group here at the university evaluate the use and potential for urban airports to actually be used in disaster relief scenarios as a very, very sort of flexible solution to getting aid to people in remote areas. So why urban air mobility? So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, it's really on-demand passenger or cargo carrying air transport services that exist in an urban environment and as a novel solution, which hopefully will give rise to reducing congestion, offering more flexible services, and reducing pollution through the use of eVTOL. So we've seen recent advantages in aviation technology to electrically power flight, so colloquially flying cars. They may be through sort of multiple rotor aircraft or tilt rotor aircraft. And potentially these are seen at the moment or in the future as a sort of cargo carrying air transportation service. It's undeniable that these services are regulatory influenced. So we need a lot of buy-in from the regulatory authorities to operate them in dense urban areas. But with growing congestion and take-up, they could help augment sort of conventional mass transit services. Now, the advantage of urban airport and why we see a pop-up airport, it helps the infrastructure within a city environment where space is at a premium. So vertical takeoff and landing can be enabled by this sort of helipad approach, if you like. It needs less runway space, and it's also far quieter. So noise is a massive issue. Helicopters are very noisy. Traditional turboprop and jet engine aircraft are very, very noisy. Whereas electric-powered VTOLs with smaller rotors, less disturbance, are much quieter and a more favorable solution to air mobility within urban area. So with all of this in mind, this gave us the opportunity to redesign the traditional airport experience. And you'll see some of the pictures there, the Supernal concept vehicle, which was demonstrated by Hyundai at the airport in the middle there, gives you some idea of the sort of size and scale of the vehicle that we're talking about. So before we started getting involved in the actual design of the airport, we had to come up with some personas. And we use personas to ensure that different populations are considered in the design process. So you see, we have Emma and Jin there. So Emma's what we would determine a person with reduced mobility. We look at their occupation, their user needs, and then we can structure that design evaluations around those personas and visualize them as people, and then develop the storyboards about how those personas engage with the transport system. So we developed 4 personas and their corresponding storyboards, which was based on a review of the scientific literature available currently. So each of these 4 personas have different exciters and pain points. And you'll see in these storyboards, you can see, so we've got red, amber, and green pleasure and pain points. So we're looking at Jin here on the left-hand side of the screen, and you can see our high stress points. Typically journey to the airport, medium stress points, ticket scanning, rising again through security, until they get to the boarding lounge and retail, where their sort of exciter points come into play. And then that sort of dips again through their boarding gate. So this is kind of very much a traditional journey through the airport. We can see slight differences with Emma, who has a wheelchair user. So her points are slightly different, and probably are focused more on the sort of security rather than the visit to the airport. But this is one of the things that we've actually learned post-project, is that one of the things that can irritate people of reduced mobility is that when they sign up to assistance services, those assistance services actually take them through the airport at speed. They're designed to facilitate easy and fast movement. And unfortunately, that often negates the pleasure points, because instead of being able to sort of take your time and engage with the customer journey, you're whizzed through on the back of a mobility scooter at the gate on the plane, and you've been through that sort of mid-level of stress all the way through. Not particularly painful, but not particularly enjoyable either. So what do we want our future transport hub to look like in 5 years' time? Now, there's 3 pictures here which show probably the sort of state of play of what passengers perceive and experience upon arrival at an airport. Without wishing to sort of pick on sort of traditional airports, it's fairly obvious from here that you've got an awful lot of information. It's quite dense, and you've got quite a stressful sort of queuing process to get checked in. None of this is a particularly enjoyable process. It highlights that sort of pain and stressor point upon entry, which can ruin your journey. It's quite hard to navigate and not particularly accessible. So how do we address that? So what we did was we built a virtual version or digital twin of Air One in virtual reality. Our partners, Urban Airport, provided a structural model in Rhino. We then transferred that into Unity. We developed a signage and wayfinding based upon scientific literature and user requirements. And then we developed a number of journey scenarios with the core principle of actively replicating the exciters and pain points and where they come in the journey, so we can smooth that customer journey out. And they were informed by the personas and storyboards that I said previously, and then we replicated those in the VR user study. So you can see here we have a number of journey scenarios ranged around the sort of kind of flyer model. So we have a frequent flyer, a non-frequent flyer, a person with reduced mobility, and family flyers. So for those of you who are used to flying on business or a frequent flyer, you'll be familiar with the fact that, we pack a lot into our journey, and things tend to be done down to the wire. So this one focuses on getting from main entrance to gate within a very short period of time. And that journey, obviously, the security officer has to check, and that introduces a lot of stress, time delays when you're actually running against the clock. So that was that one scenario touch point. You have the non-frequent flyers, a different model altogether. Generally leave more time before flight boarding, a focus on, perhaps not working on the flight, but therefore you need something to pass the time. So you're very much more engaged with kind of the hospitality and services that are laid on by the airport. The person with reduced mobility is very much, how do I get from point A to point B, while perhaps using facilities? Are they easy to use? Where can I find them? How do I get assistance? And then you possibly, for those of us who have had young children and flown, the worst scenario, family flyers, and trying to sort of keep your children amused as you run through that sort of customer journey. So we ran all these journey scenarios in virtual reality. So we had 20 participants taking place in the study. We tried to get as many as possible representative of gender difference. We had a number aged in the sort of young adult to sort of 29 age, some in the sort of 30 to 39, and a couple in the 40 plus bracket, and one wheelchair user. So we did this study using HTC Vive Pro with handheld controllers. So we had to brief the participants on how to engage with the virtual reality headsets, how they engage with the controls. And then we let them loose in this sort of controlled space. And you can see on the top right image is our mixed reality design suite. One of our participants holding the controllers in her headset. And what you can see in the lower image is what she's actually seeing and experiencing while she's moving around this sort of safe zone with our, if you like, our safety officer in the back to ensure that she doesn't become disorientated or move outside the zone. So at the end of these scenarios, we asked open-ended questions regarding what the participants thought and what their feelings were around the sort of scenarios, and then a couple of closed questions about, is it easy to navigate, easy to complete? And from that, we do the content analysis to derive codes and themes from the interview data, which we could use then to feed back to Urban Airport and actually affect the design and journey of customers through that airport. So I've got a little video now of, and I don't know if the sound will come through. It's if you can hear sound, it's just ambient sound that is used to influence the participant. If you can't hear the sound, that's great, because it's slightly annoying. So you can see here how the journey is being designed so that upon entry, your first access point is to hospitality, but you can actually clear line of sight see through to your actual departure vehicle. And this was quite important, because what we discovered was that, actually boarding is a significant pleasure or exciter point. So if you get to see that first, that actually enhances your, feeling of well-being. It lowers your stress levels, and you can see, your journey much more clearly. I might just fast forward a little bit through here, because there you can just see the participant glanced up to see the signage boards, and then that tells them where they need to go. So you can see actually what the participants are doing at the moment is they're sort of fully exploring that space. So they're getting that feel for the space. They found their way to gate A. This is the point where you start to see the stress points. So we tried to put the stress points later in the design journey so that they have less impact on the participant. So you look at security screening, they're just going through into the boarding area. Thought the table tennis tables might be a nice touch if you've got a little time to spend. And then they move through into security. Customer feedback is very important. So everywhere we look, there's opportunities for customers to feedback on their experience. Through the metal detector, up the steps, and onto the boarding platform. We also took the opportunity to have some fun designing and concepting out our own particular urban air mobility passenger shuttle. This one. And obviously this scenario is very much influenced by the design of the fact that it's pop-up, and the learning, however, can still be identified to other more conventional forms of airport and airside operations design. So in terms of the conclusions of the VR study, what we found is that using high fidelity and immersive environments presented in this extended reality do make an ideal tool. The methodology we developed is not limited to urban pop-up airports. It's a methodology that can be extended into other transport modes, and anywhere where you have, in effect, a multimodal or a transfer of modalities during the customer journey. So, for example, moving from rail to very light rail to cab journeys to mass transit, ground vehicles. The methodology is appropriate for any of those kind of design planning activities. So revealing the key exciters for passengers using innovative mobility infrastructure will certainly enhance the passenger experience and possibly increase trust and acceptance. So as we move into these sort of new technologies that are highly automated, highly innovative, we can perhaps use this technique to advance scale up. So the more acceptance and the more trust, the more we can scale these technologies and increase their usability, but also enable faster acceptance and possibly a greater return or quicker return on investment for suppliers and operators. For those interested in the technical details of the human factors, what we did, we've open access paper, which we published in Applied Ergonomics. There's a link there. So, you know, with the recording, I guess people can click on the link and find their way to that. So we completed this VR study about 12 months prior to the physical build in Coventry. And right at the start of this, I mentioned the speed with which we did. So while we were literally discussing where it was going to be located with the City Council, we had a number of options to go through that had sort of their own transport infrastructure requirements. We're actually doing the study in VR before we put really pen to paper. And that really enabled us to do a very accelerated design process because we had all that information and data at an early stage so that we weren't going through endless loops of design and feedback to ensure that it would be accessible, easy to navigate, and a pleasure to use. So hopefully when Urban Airport build the first urban airport, it'll have this sort of experience and navigation that we designed as our contribution to what was really quite a sort of world-leading and unique project. So once we got into May 22, the project was built. You can see the picture there of the urban airport. This was actually built in a car park next to the Research Centre for Future Transport Cities and the City Council building. Very, very short space. I think Sunil will have some nice time-lapse video. I don't want to steal your thunder, but there's going to be a very nice bit in a minute from Sunil. We had 15,000 people attended Air One during 3.5 weeks of public demonstration. So these were open to the general public, to VIPs, to schools. We ran STEM events. We met and engaged with our regional mayor, Andy Street. Councillor Boyle from the City Council came, and we ran over 100 successful drone flights, including the first heavy cargo drone flight in an urban environment worldwide. So this is a T-150 drone with a 30-kilo payload, and we were able to fly this vertically from the urban airport. We had a very great media attention, interviews run for the BBC with ITV, and a tremendous amount of social media event output from this.
Thank you very much, Vincent.
Sorry, I just very quickly, just to show you the last little bit, the augmented reality. So this was at the STEM events with 250 school children come through and engage, as well as the general public. And we used this little iPad augmented reality tool to show them how the supernal flight might go, using our small little laser cut model then there in an iPad. So that's me.
Thank you very much, Kevin. That was really, really impressive. And I think he links very well to the next presentation, right, Sunil? In the meantime, for anybody that has any question or curiosity, we hopefully would have time at the end of the presentation of Sunil to cover them. So, Sunil, the floor is yours.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Kevin, and much appreciated for bigging me up on this one. But I think the key point here is that collaboration with academia partners and local authorities is the point that I wanted to get over. And this particular project, when it was proposed by Kevin to say, look, Sunil, we have this project. Would you be interested in participating and taking this project on board? And unfortunately, I did a very career limiting move, and I agreed to it without even consulting any of my superiors. So that was something that was challenging, but yeah, a lot of it has been covered by Kevin, and I'll try and see if I can put some content behind of what the reasons we did what we did with the university and Coventry City Council. We have a vision for Coventry and the West Midlands region. We have targets that we need to meet: reducing congestion, reducing pollutions, effective traffic management. We wanted to create, as Kevin said, we want to create a testbed area, and we want to become a centre of excellence, a living lab scenario within Coventry. Coventry has a pioneer, have been pioneers in transportation over the years, and we still wanted to be there. Demonstrating operational connected autonomous vehicles. We were leading up to the Commonwealth Games in 2022, introducing alternative automated rideshare services, meet the demands, give public a reliable, safe and a value for money alternative to public car ownership. We have a cluster of universities within the West Midlands region, but our association with Coventry University is strong, and we have worked on many European projects as well as UK funded projects. As the rendering Kevin showed, and just re-establishing here, that was the render. But on the right hand side, you are seeing the car park that we were going to put that a demonstrator on, the urban airport built in there. Just a piece of land, and you can see it was an operational car park right in the center of Coventry, right next to the newly built railway station. We wanted to prove, so various locations were considered. We were looking at going somewhere near the M6 motorway, but that wouldn't have proved the concept that we wanted to demonstrate, that, you know, having an urban airport in a city environment wouldn't have sort of proved the fact that we can. And as you can see, the car park, not a single hole was dug to accommodate the urban airport when it was constructed. So as it said, it was something that was mobile. It can be easily deployed, and I'll show you on the next slide the time-lapse video clip that we took, and this is literally from our offices, which is less than 100 meters away from this actual site. And this took 7 weeks to build, and once we finished, we realized that this can actually be built within 4 weeks, because this being the world's first, it received tremendous media coverage globally, not just locally but globally. And we had you know, visitors from all over the world coming in, looking at how this was constructed, providing that infrastructure changes, the challenges we faced while we were doing this. And without the help of the university with the augmented reality work that they carried out, would have been difficult. When you're looking at innovative way of doing things, the biggest challenges are making sure that the politicians are on board. As Kevin mentioned, that, you know, we had our local councillors, the mayor of the West Midlands. They were all. It's not easy to convince them when you're demonstrating a new mode of transport, especially in an urban environment. Commercial airlines operate, rail, road, and everything else is standard, but having that construction, as you can see, right in an urban environment where you've got offices, residential, we're under the flight paths of 2 airports, Coventry Airport and Birmingham Airport. The legislations and the requirements that we had to meet and the authorizations we had to get, something new to the authority. Coventry being the world's first authority to demonstrate that in an urban environment was a challenge for us, purely because how do we get people to understand? And when this went up, the inquiries and the general public that came along would say, it's just a piece, it's a tent. Why have you put a tent in? And getting that engagement and getting that message over was very, very challenging. But as I said, working with the university, making sure that the public were aware, giving them the demonstrations with the augmented reality, sharing that with them was something that made it a lot more easier. I'm just going to, again, it's just a few video clips I'm sharing with you because I personally believe seeing is believing. And when we demonstrated this on day one, before it opened, to just get an understanding of what it would look like, it's a true multimodal hub where we've got connected autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles ready to be discharged. We had e-scooters, e-bikes, cargo bikes, hydrogen fueling stations, everything within this particular small piece of land. As you walked in, as Kevin said, we wanted to give the general public the comfort of an environment where it was not alien or not sort of obstructive to say, you know, this is a different mode. So when you've seen and you walked in, the platform, this is actually the model Kevin referred to, and it's a life-size model of a passenger carrying drone by Supernal. Currently, the legislation doesn't allow us to fly autonomously, so it had the capacity, which is, you can see there's the structure behind me, which carries 4 passengers and a pilot. Changing and demonstrating the capability of flying taxis effectively, and what was a challenge, and it was much easier to get that message over when people walked in. The departure lounge, again, all of this was within the augmented reality, but this was in real life, where we looked at logistics, how the parcels delivery can be done. Every structure in there was green, recycled materials, including leisure, the clothes, the furniture, and everything was within that particular green space, effectively. So it was a totally green structure that went in. Having all those people coming through the doors of it, it became very, very easy, very quickly for them to get the message of how things could look. That structure was for passenger carrying. What we've also considered is the drone technology currently is available and it's been used. Can we expedite the introduction of drones within the urban environment with structures like these, where you've got the logistics partners working with us to deliver parcels which would help us reduce the emissions, and making sure that, you know, we're able to still manage and deliver in a space within the city. This particular structure would take about 8 car parking spaces. So, you know, by introducing this, would that help us meet our net zero targets, which have been set by the government? We think it is. But again, legislations and the requirements for drones to operate in an urban environment are very strict, very constrained. How do we do that? Because currently you can only fly at 400 feet, and it has to be a visual line of sight. So as long as you can see the drone, you can fly. But that isn't going to help us. So some of the other projects that we're currently working on is to try and work out where we can fly beyond visual line of sight. So there's a project we are currently engaged in, which is working with the Altitude Angel and creating highways in skies, where we're looking at building a corridor between Coventry and Reading. As you can see, that within that, the first stage is going to be a bit Milton Keynes, Oxford, Rugby, and Coventry. If we can start demonstrating that we can, and I'll try and see if I can explain a bit better with this particular, if technology allows me to.
In the 1800s, the rail network expansion fueled significant industrial growth. Connecting towns and naval ports together brought revolutionary efficiencies to the movement of goods and people, spawning entirely new industries and businesses. Today, we begin the next industrial and commercial revolution: automated flight. The Skyway system establishes a network of superhighways up to 10 kilometers wide, with the first main route spanning 265 kilometers between Reading and Coventry. Soon, time-sensitive transportation of medical items and organs, fire, medical and police scenarios, as well as the delivery of high-value, low-volume goods can start to be moved by automated drone, unlocking the vast potential of drones to transform lives and revolutionize business. Skyway has safety and privacy at its core. Powerful sensors on the ground looking up detect crewed and uncrewed aviation traffic and create a real-time moving map of the sky above, which is relayed to the Skyway controller in the cloud, where it is used to provide automated air traffic control for drones flying on the superhighway, preventing collisions. Drones can enter or exit the Skyway anywhere along the route, bringing access to millions of businesses and citizens. Automated flight. Anywhere and for everyone. Just imagine.
Just imagine that what we could do once these highways are built. Without the help of our academia partners, it would be very difficult to achieve that. The infrastructure that needs to go in, where connectivity is key for these to operate safely, legislation changes that needs to be made for them to operate in an urban environment, flying between cities, working with our European partners and try and come up with a common standard that would actually help us deliver the future mode of transport. Up until now, we've always concentrated on roads, rails, buses, taxis. This particular mode of transport will be a game changer. It's just how we introduce it. When we're looking at the future mobility hubs, as I said, you know, you've got a range of modes of transport. The missing link was the urban airport, the urban air mobility. And I think that's where we want to be. The vision for us in the future is that connectivity between all modes of transport, including maritime. Once we've got those links set up and worked with our academia partners to see how we can get that message over, and research and development in this particular area is key for us. And this is where I think we will benefit when we start introducing the new mode of transport, which effectively is operational in the city, where the police, the health services are currently using that mode of transport to transfer not just goods, but medical supplies, vaccines in remote areas, which will help, as Kevin said, you know, the most vulnerable, where people cannot be reached. This mode of transport will actually help us deliver that. I'm hoping that has given you an insight on the Coventry aspect of where we are, and hopefully that's been useful.
Thank you very much, Sunil. Definitely was visionary, I would say. So let's hope that, you know, from the imagination until the reality, we can move some step forward in this co-creation process involving all the involved stakeholders. So while inviting everybody to drop your question, I think there is already one in the chat for now for Kevin, which is, what design change suggestions were you able to make as a result of using the simulation that maybe were not anticipated at the start of the process?
That's a very, very good question. The original proposal had it's difficult to describe without an image, but you saw in the images, you saw the shape of the pop-up airport. The original concept had a complete, if you like, what you might call a transom, which is where if you like, the tent structure went to the floor, and you had a hatch that opened up, and it looked very, very futuristic and very cool. But one of the things that we didn't anticipate was that wasn't liked very much by our participants. So we ended up raising the structure and putting a chamfered wall around the structure, because people felt much more comfortable entering the structure through a more traditional gateway than a hatch. So it was one of the things we didn't anticipate,
Right.
And it was a fairly fundamental change to the external, not just the sort of customer journey, the interior, which was our focus. We made a complete change to the external structure because people just didn't feel comfortable entering it.
Right, I see that. And maybe one question for both of you, because both of you mentioned sort of the feedback, the reaction from the people seeing it from outside, and maybe they were not super and not enthusiastic and not positive about. What about afterwards? What was the reaction, the feedback that you heard?
I'll go first on this one, purely because for the city, people living in the city, it was something that they drove past every day, because the structure was right next to the railway station. So all the commuters saw the structure going up, and they couldn't understand what it was. And when the flights were taking off, we had to freeze the pedestrian movement 50 meters around the structure, because that's what the legislation states. So they couldn't understand what the benefits were. But the moment they stepped inside the structure and walked and talked through the structure, the constructions, and the benefits of how this particular mode of transport would help them, they actually got, and we had a range of people coming in, from school children right up to 60, 70, 80-year-old people who would come in and say, well, couldn't understand when they walked in, but the moment they left, they said, yes, we understand this. This will actually help, maybe not us, but our children for sure, and it will help deliver some of those targets. So that perception changed very quickly once they walked in and it was explained to them the benefits of those particular mode of transport.
Interesting. Vincent, anything to add from your side? Okay, Kevin, sorry.
That's okay, that's no problem. Yeah, an interesting observation, but a little bit of feedback that I had given to me myself from an eVTOL company. They wondered why we'd planned the customer journey the way we had, with those sort of exciter points, because they were really of the opinion that this was for very important business people, and that very important business people want to go straight through and not stop and be straight on the plane and gone, because time was so important. And I think what that says to me is that you can't design this for absolutely everybody and have everybody happy all the time. So you can only do your best to make sure the widest number of people have the best solution. So it's about not making perfect the enemy of good.
It also actually, just adding to that particular sort of concept, we had the police and the emergency services also demonstrating their drones, because they are currently operating drones in many scenarios where they're using it for emergency services, and they were part of the demonstration. And when they ran their demonstration, where they could follow people, they could follow vehicles, rather than having a vehicle drive around at high speeds chasing a stolen vehicle, they could actually track the stolen vehicle using a drone, which actually made it safer on the streets. They put a scenario on where there was an old lady who was disorientated and wandering in the park. The drone was able to track her, rather than having someone going and actually creating a bigger scenario for them to be afraid. The drone would just track her and follow her to make sure that she was safe, or if she was in distress, they were able to discharge someone to go and support. So those sort of scenarios, as I said, having demonstrations of medical supplies being delivered in remote spots, that was something that actually helped.
Right, this is extremely fascinating, I must confess. So thank you very much for sharing this experience. Also, something that come up in the chats from participants is that they would be delighted to hear more from the project outcomes. So I suggest that whenever we're ready with the recording, we also make sure to send, of course, presentation, but also the links and where to find more information. And I'm sure that both Kevin and Sunny will remain at disposal should there be any further questions. Thank you very much again. So I take just the opportunity, really the last 30 seconds, bear with me, to just remind you of the upcoming webinar jointly organized with EUBIC Coventry University on digital manufacturing and industry 4.0, taking place the 31st of May. Online again, registration will be open soon. And for those wondering why this big focus on extended reality, I mean, it's not because it is the future, and it is important that we understand the impact a different level. I also take advantage of ready to share with you a save the date of our second event of the year together with our EBN Congress. We are also organized again together with Coventry University our tech camp, which will be focusing on immersive technology, and we will have the chance for those of you who will join us there to actually see in action and use the simulation center and use all the great facilities that our UB Coventry University has there. So from my side, a big thank you for being with us until the end. Thanks again, Kevin and Sanil. Magdalena, maybe a few words from your side as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Laura, for mastering this webinar, and thank you, Kevin and Sanil, also for providing this remarkable insight. And as we see by the questions in the chat, there are many people interested in the not only finding out about the past projects, but also about the future projects and the future plans. So it's really an amazing outcome already of the webinar. So the all attendees, please free to contact us if you would like to discuss any collaboration in training, educational research. And of course, we will welcome you at our next webinar on the 31st of May. So thank you very much for attending, and have a great rest of the day. We hope that you will enjoy also the follow-up when we send you the slides and the further links to more information about our project. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Magdalena. Much appreciated. And Laura, thank you for your help.
Thank you.